Perfect. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Ayush. Most of you have received an email from me in the last weeks pushing you towards joining different ETIS webinars and meetings. But this is what we do. This is the knowledge sharing platform that you are part of. Today, here together with Companion Energy, we are discussing how telco the journey towards energy mastery matters within today's changing telecom world. Uh, Before we begin, I just wanted to quickly remind you of the confidentiality terms of our meeting. So whatever is being said or discussed within the meeting is solely for the participants in the meeting and the companies that they represent. Please do not share any information that is discussed during the meeting publicly on LinkedIn or any other social media channel without the explicit approval of the person that has shared that information. We are a closed platform, and that is one of the values that we bring is confidentiality towards our members. Next is the antitrust policy. As you all know, ATIS meetings are not commercial meetings. We do not share, discuss any commercially sensitive information. We do not take any targeted approach towards a specific group, platform, supplier, vendor, or even an operator. If you hear any information that you think might be against the policy, please object immediately. Us as at a central office will also object to sharing any information that we deem is on the outside of the boundaries of the policy. If you're unsure that the information that you want to share or discuss whether infringes on this antitrust, please check with your own legal team before sharing that information here at the platform. As always, welcome. Uh, the agenda is quite short today, so we'll have the presentation and a live demo from Companion Energy. We'll also quickly go through the energy priorities that were shared by the members in the recent survey that we did. And plus, I'll quickly also walk you through the upcoming events, the ATIS gathering in Riga, as well as other energy working group sessions that are planned in the near future. First, with the gathering, so we are meeting in Riga this year. This is our annual event where Energy Working Group, along with 13 other working groups, will meet in person for 2 full days. We will have a lot of different sessions, a lot of discussions on the priorities that is a challenge for the ETS members, as well as we will also see a lot of use cases and a lot of learnings and insights being openly shared. If you haven't already registered for the session, please register on the ETIS website for the gathering. As always, the 2 full days will be full of insights and learnings for our members. Next, the future sessions. So you'll find them on our website, but I want to quickly run you through the sessions that are planned in close proximity. So on 24th of this month, we have the agentic AI sessions, which is basically leading to how you can improve your customer value. So customer value management using agentic AI. That is a session that you can join already by scanning the QR code and registering. Next, we have the roundtable discussion on the energy white paper. Again, most of you already received an email from the ETIS side, and it's also available on our website. We are working together with Companion Energy on a white paper on energy, on how energy as a cornerstone of resilience within the European telecom sector. Thomas here is working on the first draft, and we would be able to share it with our members in the coming weeks, along with a few questions that we want to go deeper into. And we hope in this roundtable discussion on the 18th of March, we would be able to bring forward together the telecom industry in terms of energy sector. And also, we would really appreciate your participation in helping us write this paper. Next, we have Elisa together with DNA Towers Finland jointly presenting on their virtual power plant resilience and new revenue opportunities. This is a case study with Elisa and DNA Tower together sharing how they have been able to manage and expand the virtual power plant towards making telecom operators more resilient into going into the future. Uh, with this, I just wanted to quickly bring back your focus to the energy working group priorities. For our members, we did a survey back in December of 2025 where we shared certain topics that we as ETIS Central Office found that were important for our members. And then we also asked you to share your opinion and also other topics that might be interesting for you to join and discuss within the ETIS community. Here is the ranking. So as you can see, the energy cost efficiency, cost reduction, and optimization overall was rated the highest. Then smart energy, IoT, VPP projects, along with battery energy storage systems. AI was also one of the top trending topics that were voted by our members, followed by 24/7 CFE, network level energy efficiency, data centers, telecom as an energy operator. This is also a new business model. We have a separate Future of Telecoms webinar series. We are discussing different aspects of where telecom operators can enter uh, as a player, and energy is one of those sectors we already discussed in the past. Sustainability reporting as well as energy impact, and then finally the energy partnerships, interoperability and digital twins. So these were the topics, the top 10 topics that were identified, and this will also be a basis for us to formulate the agenda for the gathering. Other priorities that the members shared here, you can see on the screen. Some already laid out in the previous slide, some are new. To this slide, we will share this via email and also via the forum section of the ETIS Members Corner for you to go through them and also share your opinion if you haven't already voted or already shared your priorities with us. And these are some other proposed topics that the members wanted to discuss within the ETIS community. So grid congestion solution, scope 1, energy reduction for fossil fuels, cooling optimizations, network level energy efficiency, automating energy analysis, and then introduction of smart meters, along with regulations at the EU level related to energy. So we are planning sessions around it. We already have volunteers and presenters who want to speak about it or discuss these topics in a roundtable. And then we will also shortlist some of these topics to bring to the gathering to discuss in person. With this, I wanted to thank Thomas and Jack here for taking out the time and coming here to share their experiences and a live demo of their platform on what they are doing within the telecom energy space and how the telecom operators within the ETIS community can master energy. Welcome, Thomas. Welcome, Jack.
Hi,
over to you
thank
guys
you for
now.
having us. Over to us.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. Yeah, well, so lovely to meet you all. I'm Jack Eastwood. I'm the Commercial Director at Companion Energy. I'll just share my screen so you can see the slides that we've prepared. Please let me know if you can't see that.
Yeah, it's visible.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's obviously interesting to see energy efficiency, cost reduction, and optimization, and obviously the use of AI and automation as such hot topics for the ETIS community this year. I think we'll touch on a lot of that throughout this session. As I said, I'm here the Commercial Director of Companion Jack, and I've got Thomas Finker, the co-founder of Companion Energy, with me as well. And Companion Energy, we're a financial optimization platform for energy operations based in Ghent at the moment, and working already in the telco sector with several customers. And what we want to talk about today is, so talking through the telco journey to energy mastery, I want to start by laying out the evolving landscape that we're seeing at the moment in discussions with telcos as well as other customers and large energy users. What's changed that's making energy management a challenge? Before moving on to looking at what our view on the telco energy management journey is, and talking through the various stages of that and what we feel companies need to make that journey and how to build up momentum and pass through it. At that point, I'll hand over to Thomas, who'll give a demo using our platform of a example telco company and what that looks like on the platform and how we look to extract the value and support you on that journey. Summarizing some of those value drivers at the end, and then looking at next steps and sort of a Q&A. Although I will stop throughout this presentation and give you a chance to ask questions too, and address any thoughts as you go. So let's get into it. So I think the reality is that energy markets have clearly changed in the last few years. And the two charts here, I'll start with the one on the right. The energy crisis from 2021, 2022 led energy companies to change how they offer contracts to customers. It's a lot harder today to secure demand following fixed price energy contracts. And instead, energy suppliers are pushing that risk off themselves and onto the consumer. So the reality is that building up hedges, building up various energy supply contracts to cover your demand is increasingly more complex. And most companies are finding themselves left with this residual purple section here and here, which is exposure to the spot market, risk, ultimately. But the problem with that risk is it's got bigger. And that's when we come over onto the left here. This is a snapshot from Belgium last year in, I think, November. And you can see the size of the energy price spikes taking place just through that month alone. Obviously, throughout the year, volatility is increasing. And this is driven by, I think, two things. One, increasingly intermittent renewables coming onto the grid. It's great that we have more renewables coming on, but they're less predictable. And as a result, the energy that's supplied is more volatile. Yes, it has its benefits that you can, as a consumer, capture negative prices or low prices from time to time. But often the lack of predictability is a challenge. And where pain is really felt is when these two sections intersect, because at that point you have high prices, high price exposure coming together. And the result is that, whilst it's true that the cheapest megawatt is the one you don't, megawatt hour is the one you don't use, you are still going to be ultimately left with that exposure. So you need to come up with something to address that price volatility. I know a lot of companies will turn around at this point and say, well, we hedge annually. That's fine. But then my next question will be do you have sustainability targets? Because if you're looking at incorporating more renewables into your energy consumption, then annual hedging is going to start to become a problem. And I added this slide last night based off the analysis that we saw in the demo that we're going to give later. On the left, this is from a couple of weeks ago. Ignoring the purple sectors here of exposure, you can see it's a relatively sort of simple profile that can be hedged. So if you increase the red line, you could hedge most of this throughout the winter. The problem becomes when that same annual hedge that's been applied comes in summer and you have these large spikes, orange spikes here, of solar production. Because if you're trying to avoid exposure to the spot market, the reality is the integration of renewables contracts and annual hedges is going to leave you with residual exposure in the injection market, which can be even more expensive than exposure to the buy spot market. So for companies that are looking to become more sustainable, integrate more renewable power into their operations, annual fixed hedges no longer eradicate spot market volatility and volatility exposure. So you put these two things together, and the challenge has become harder for energy management teams and telcos. And then there's another change, data. And this is both a positive and a negative. I'm going to talk a lot in this webinar about the importance of having data and using data and valorizing data. But at the start, when you're capturing data, you can end up with data sprawl. You have multiple systems, different systems, data is not talking to one another. And whilst you're capturing the data, the reality is that your workload's increasing because processing and analyzing the data takes dedicated team members or teams to quality check it, to clean it, to format it, process it, then prepare the reports. And worst of all, when you get a last minute ad hoc reporting request, and you have to dive into the data lake and ferret around to get back the pieces of data that you need. And so the ad hoc requests come less. The feedback from the analysis becomes fewer and further between. It doesn't add the value that was promised because the analysis is not getting circled back, the data is not being consistently managed and consistently updated, and decisions aren't being made on it that add value to the business and build resiliency to the business. So the bottom line is the ROI on this data capture is not delivering the value that was promised, and we're having to invest more time as a business to process and manage and use that data in a profitable way. So I'll take a quick break here and just open for any questions off any of the sort of scene setting that I've just done. Stunned silence. Hopefully this isn't too shocking this early in the morning. Okay. I think I'll carry on then, Ayush, if that's all right.
Sure, Jack. Please feel free to ask questions in between the session, as well as use the chat section to ask your questions, and then other colleagues from Companion Energy might be able to answer you in the chat as well.
Thanks, Ayush. Okay, so with this in mind, where do we go next? The journey to energy cost mastery. So what I'm going to do now is take a look at each of these stages and talk a bit about what they entail and what the business looks like. I've just talked a lot about data, and I think data is part of what contributes to the chaos stage of the energy mastery journey. There's spreadsheets everywhere, there's siloed teams working off different data sets, it's not integrated. And then in terms of value, value's lost at this stage because you've made the upfront investment that you're not getting your return on. Teams are having to work harder. Different teams are pulling in different directions. There's maybe IT and data strategy that's been implemented, but they're having to expend more time and effort pulling the various parts into one place. And the result is the value is lost here. So what's the first step that needs to be taken? It's moving to clarity. It's getting all that data in one place, in one format, and integrating it with other data. So energy consumption data is great for energy efficiency, but as we've seen, energy efficiency doesn't take you all the way to energy cost reduction. You need to integrate your energy costs into this across sites, across contracts, and it's not just this is my commodity cost for a PPA. It's the non-commodity costs as well. These can be 20, 30, even 60% of costs from some of the businesses I talk to. Decision making that takes place without factoring in non-commodity costs is immediately a flawed decision because you might not make anything like the return you're expecting. So clarity is the first step, pulling the data into one place and unlocking transparency in energy cost across the business. And when you have that, you almost start to push yourself towards control, because, referring back to the example I gave earlier on, you can see that data. You can see, based on the contracts that you have, that, hold on, my annual hedge is leading to quite high injection exposure in the summer. That's not good. I think maybe we need to start thinking about seasonal hedging. So that's the first part of an optimization journey that you can do on your own, just based off seeing the data. But where it gets even smarter is when you start to forecast. Forecasting, of course, what your consumption is, but forecasting the short term, what your consumption is tomorrow. Because if you know what your consumption is going to be tomorrow, and you know what the energy markets are, then you can start to put those two things together and say, okay, well, I know this afternoon it's going to be expensive for me, but how can I address that? What tools do I have that will allow me to mitigate the impact? And that's when you start to unlock flexibility and optimization, and looking at your existing asset base as not just a weight and a cost, but as a tool to allow you to shift consumption within your profile. And when you start doing that, when you start steering assets, that's where you can take the final step to energy mastery and move beyond just reacting to the market and starting to participate in the market. And at this stage, you're using that flexibility to actively participate in things like grid services, looking for imbalance opportunities, and adding new revenue streams. So energy consumption becomes not just a cost center, but a strategic lever for value and competitiveness within the business, even beyond resiliency. And moving down that journey, I've talked about data as both a good and a bad thing. This has to sit on data. The data has to be captured from somewhere, and the best way the data can be captured is in real time from existing energy management systems, extracted into a central repository. But that repository needs to be open within your company so that operations and finance, procurement, sustainability can all access the same data, and everyone's making their team decisions off the same data collaboratively. But it also needs to provide a conduit to the market. You can't react to the market and you can't participate in the market unless you have that access to the market. And our view is that the most cost-efficient way to do this is via a single integrated platform. Fortunately, I know someone that has one, Companion Energy. So we would bill ourselves as the missing link between ops and energy markets. And what these platforms do is they sit on top of local energy management system, on top of distributed energy assets, and they integrate with the energy market layer. Now, that's, of course, really into the energy markets, into the spot markets, but it's also into the parts of your business that integrate with those markets. So it's procurement and sustainability teams buying PPAs, it's parameterization of those contracts, it's parameterization of grid costs, of imbalance fees, and integrating and capturing all of those data points and bringing them together into a cloud-based optimization layer. I can say our platform is an open API platform as well, so designed for maximum connectivity across your suite of existing services, so that you have data in one place, and valorized data, because it's not just consumption, it's consumption and cost data. Everyone's working off the same data, and you have the opportunity to do something about what you see in that data with a market integration. I think that's probably enough of me talking, so I'll hand over to Thomas to take us through a little demo. Thomas, can I hand over to you?
Yes, of course. Unless there's any pressing questions in the meanwhile before we get started, I'll show my screen. of how we typically sort of navigate the challenges that Jack has outlined with telecommunication players. I assume you can all see my screen.
Yeah, Thomas, we've got you.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, to share a bit of a demo of how our solution works, also along the steps that Jack has just outlined and shaped. We always start with choosing a starting scope with the company. In this case, a hypothetical national telecom company. So we always start with implementing and parameterizing the right energy consumption, energy production groups. So you see a couple of what we call energy groups. For instance, the aggregated data center that the companies have. You see here two grid connections, being the grid connections to, for instance, data centers. You can only also parameterize assets. I mean, in our software, it's very easy to set up different groupings, different batteries, solar panels, wind turbines, chargers, even thermal assets, in order to fully characterize the energy context of any company we work with. And here is a telco, which typically has a couple of data centers, a mobile network, some cabinets in the street for a fixed network, some technical buildings, and can have a variety of assets. We see quite a prevalence of battery assets, of course, using them for backup purposes, but also as a new revenue source, as a new source of cost arbitrage. We also see quite some solar deployment, which, as Jack has mentioned, is quite influential in also how hedging takes place, and also PPA. So we can also include, of course, measurements of offsite or projects you would procure through through a PPA. First step we do is setting the structure up. Second step we do is interfacing the right information. Can be done through the grid operators, can be done through an own data warehouse or data lake that you have. But the gist of it is that in each of these meters, as we call them, we have the energy data inside. This is an aggregate of mobile towers. You see the typical profile with some nighttime idling and less consumption. We also have like all the configuration information stored in these connections, such as which is the DSO, because and the region and the connection type, because that informs then the non-commodity cost structure. As Jack correctly highlighted, this can be extremely material for telco companies because these are typically low voltage connected assets. You also have like full visibility on, as Jack said, the API integration possibilities. So what I'm showing you here is a front end to our solution, but the crux is of course in our API, which our customers can use to sort of fetch data from, but also feed data into, so that it can be automatically displayed in our platform. So that's a bit on the data integration. So you can easily integrate this for different scopes, for different asset types. You can easily aggregate and integrate. We can also put alerting on them to detect anomalies, detect sensors that are stale. So this is like the first data integration and engineering step, which we can then summarize on a full telco scopes perspective. Your objective is to get the data in, get the right parameters, set everything up for integration, and make sure you can do some like basic slicing and dicing to investigate first things. That's the first step. So bring your data in order, which is usually already originally a set of Excel sheets or a very sort of difficult to digest data warehouse. Second step is bringing the financial information in. So next thing we do is on the scope that we collectively with you or any of our customers parameterize, we map what energy contracts define your financial situation here. So I have displayed here already. There's an offsite sort of PV installation, which is quite large. In the contract section, that's where automatically all the non-commodity cost structures are identified, but for instance, also hedging positions. For instance, what you see here, the PPA with the solar site that I just mentioned, and you can fully parameterize what the price is, what the sort of scope is that this PPA is applicable to make sure you always have the latest and greatest up-to-date financial information that we then cross with the market prices. So we have market prices for all European and even beyond countries, day-ahead markets, balancing markets, imbalance costs, futures markets for the hedging, so that you can easily map basically your consumption and production data through your contract formula on the market prices that are apparent. And that is this first basis, this first sort of whole data engine we use to then run analytics on in the first step, but then in the next steps, when you're moving towards the more mastery stages of energy management, also to use your proactive asset steering and dispatching and participating in balancing and congestion markets alike. Which I can demo also. So there's a reporting section in which you can easily, based on the data that we've had in the control room, you can easily dive deeper. So you can dive through that whole tree of what's the total consumption, what is it, for instance, for the two data centers. You can always easily, again, date pick, but you can also aggregate and disaggregate very easily from a sort of quarter by quarter hour to a day by day to a month by month. Also to track, for instance, efficiency project progress is a very common use case of this. There's also added characterization analytics, such as the seasonality of the profile, the power curves that you see with those assets, which are usually used for the asset dimensioning, also again to detect any anomalies or peaks that you would like to address. And again, it's very easy to run through the whole tree of included information in the platform. That's on the energy side, so that's purely kilowatts, megawatts, kilowatt hours, megawatt hours. But then the more interesting thing is when you start looking at the financials, or at least to us, we find that the most interesting thing. So Jack has already showed a couple of graphs, but what we use all this information for is to continuously calculate. Like usually your utility invoice will drop in your mailbox 2 months after consumption, and it will be provisional and then corrective. Like it's very hard to distill what is our weighted average power price for the full scope across the different energy contracts. And that's what you see here, that we model this on a monthly basis, but also we can model this on a 15 by 15 minute basis, which usually requires quite some Excel crunching, and which is very hard to decently keep up to date. So what you see here is that you'll have on a 15-minute by 15-minute basis a full reconciliation of the financial situation of a company energetically. So you'll see here, for instance, okay, this company did a dual hedging approach. They took some base load, some peak hedges. They have the power purchase agreement that we've seen, which is of course in February. Might not be in some geographies the most sunny month. Let's take a look at August later, and where you also have day ahead exposure, where you'll have some fixed costs, some peak demand charges, maybe excess power, energy taxes, so all the non-commodity side. And this allows you to by contract type, have a full reconciliation of what's the volume associated to that contract, starting from the really sort of deep granularity, also what's the total cost and what's the associated average price, so that it's easy and trivial to get to what's our total cost for energy, what was the commodity part, what was the non-commodity part, and what do we effectively pay, weighing all our contracts into it, including the hedging, including the PPAs, what do we pay for power. So that's a reconciliation step, which is usually very popular with our customers and very important to get a grip on the energy spend. But we can also do add-on analyses related to profile costs, for instance, to see how does the offtake profile correlate with market prices. What is the spot exposure like, again, on a sub-hourly basis, an hourly basis, because this is material information to right size your hedging approach. And for some companies, I use shared topics of interest. 24/7 CFE was in there. So we see quite some telcos already moving towards, okay, but what is our carbon-free energy score, considering our consumption, considering our local production at our sites, usually small solar here and there, or PPAs. What is our true renewable energy matching score? Beyond the quick and easy guarantees of origins you can buy from your supplier or a certificate trader. And this is sort of wraps up a bit the demo around this just reporting section where you can transform bringing all that data together into true insights that you can then turn into improvements, potentially together with your energy advisor or with your cross-functional energy team. But the thing that we are very impatient to do with all our customers is to move to actual asset steering. So we see an increasing popularity of oversizing, for instance, some backup batteries for added flexibility. That is our true business. So we are a financial optimizer. We have trading algorithms that can operate around what's your non-commodity cost, what are your specific contract structures, what are the market prices, what's the arbitrage potential, what are congestion markets, balancing markets, and we allow and we do, for instance, direct dispatching of these flexible assets, where you can see, for instance, your a sample set of batteries that would instruct a steering signal. The batteries follow that. They their state of charge obviously goes up and down, and then we can calculate in deep detail what has been the arbitrage generated by doing that battery steering. And this is something where we see the most innovative telcos, they start getting into this. The true mastery lies in the fact that recognizing that this is not just the total fleet of assets you should optimize as a whole and just aggregate and don't think further. You need to be very smart around where do you need to aggregate, where do you need to disaggregate, because these are low voltage assets typically. Grid costs are very material. You see in advanced energy models that these balancing revenues start becoming more and more competitive, and it's shallow markets. So you need to really trade off in deep detail and highly dynamically what is the expected gain from every individual steering, given individual asset parameters around efficiency, charge rates, discharge rates. Can you inject into the grid? Can you not? Taking it all into account into a very customer specific and asset specific optimization. That is where, according to us, the future lies for many telcos, and which we are supporting with some and are happy to support with all of you. So this was, in a nutshell, what we wanted to demo. Open to any questions, open to any follow-on discussions. We can set up very easily specific demos with your data, do some benefit modeling. We love discussing this topic, and we believe there's huge potential in the telco space. So that's it from my side.
Thanks, Thomas. All right, let me pull up the slides and carry on.
We have one question from Casper's. Maybe we can address that before we move forward in the chat section.
Yes, what's the ROI?
Do you take it or I do it, Jack?
You go ahead, Thomas.
Okay, so we've showed these two things. So there's this, what we call our Prism module, which shapes the transparency. What's the return on investment? It's less P&L attributable, to be fair, but it allows you to spend less time in Excel, focus on what's strategically important, identify better improvement projects. But that's not what we are truly in it for. We are truly in it for the next step, where we do this arbitrage on these batteries, and where we set our price so that our customers have a 5 to 10x ROI on our cost. But of course, the absolute return, that matters a lot. What matters a lot is how many batteries do you have? What's their flexible capacity that you can optimize? Which markets are they in? Because it's often, you see lots of big numbers flying around from the typical flex traders, but yeah, watch out. They're usually not that applicable to telcos, because it's lots of small assets, high grid costs. So you need to really look into detail at the different markets, at your energy contracts, at the specific assets. But happy to support in making more specific modeling on your context always, because it's not always straightforward. But we see with some that it's typically on per megawatt of battery, we see quite a range. For the most constrained batteries that we optimize, it is between 50 and 100K. In the Benelux market, which is quite saturating, we see for behind the meter low voltage connected assets per megawatt, if they are truly also imbalance cost exposed, we see more between 100 and 150K per megawatt per year these days that is realized. But again, happy to get more specific on your specific context too.
Thanks, Thomas. I think that leads us sort of neatly to summarize a bit. Yeah, I think Thomas has kind of addressed all of this in what he just said at the end. They're talking about the two different modules and where the value can be derived from, and perhaps more interesting is looking at this with respect to that journey to energy mastery, and why make that trip. Again, in our experience, most telcos are in the process of moving from chaos to clarity. There are initiatives underway. There are maybe some RFQs out to look at getting a handle on that data sprawl and turning it into something that's manageable and actionable. And as I think you can see from the platform, helping you on that journey, Prism is a perfect tool to do this. And then as you go through the journey, Thomas talked about the steering of assets, using that not just as using it as a tool to be a mitigant for that volatility. As we saw at the start, the reality is that most telcos are going to end up with more exposure to spot markets, more exposure to volatility, more risk. Using our platform and the steering that we can do, we help mitigate and manage that risk. And that's the control section before you step forward to, as Thomas said, market dependent, actually participating in the market, participating in balancing markets in Belgium, doing avoidance in for atypical consumption profiles in Germany where possible, things like that. The top line is cost reduction. That's what we look to deliver. But talking about management of that risk, that builds operational resilience, and both of those contribute to competitive edge. But really, as I hope is sort of evident through the demonstration, the value is pretty broad, in terms of generating reports, getting out in front of regulatory changes, having the information on hand for things like CSRD. The data is captured here. It's just a case of processing it and using the brain that's in Companion's platform to supply information to allow you to build regulatory confidence and be a leader in sustainability. Looking forwards, I think Ayush has talked about this already. We will be at the ETIS gathering in Riga. I prefer our photo, Ayush. I think makes Riga look more beautiful. So we hope to connect with you there. But we're also leading on the white paper. Thomas will be working on that all hours of the day and night, I'm sure, between here and the 18th of March, 10:30, where we actually have a session to discuss with you. You'll be able to see the white paper beforehand. And really what we want to show with respect to energy as a cornerstone of resilience is how platforms like Companion Energy support telcos in building the following resiliences. So, it's not just about operational resilience, financial resilience. It's also about using energy as a way to address cybersecurity, the connectivity you have across your asset base, and are implementing with things like IoT. I've just talked about compliance and policy and addressing regulation, societal impacts, and laying the foundation to moving towards things like 24/7 carbon-free energy, and contributing towards the capability you have within your asset base and unlocking it. So hopefully we'll see many of you there and be able to get your insights as to what that's like for your business as well. So thank you from me and Thomas, and thank you obviously to Ayush and ETIS for organising this morning. It's been great to have the opportunity to talk to you all today. And like I said at the start, it's great to see that so many companies are talking about these challenges, because if people are talking about it, it means that you're already on that first step to progress towards clarity, to progress towards control and energy mastery. So hopefully this has been insightful for you and gives you some ideas about how our platform and platforms like ours can be valuable for the energy sector, the telco sector. So I'll finish and say, any questions?
I have a question, and it's about the high data dependency. It seems that the whole process works the best when the background data is most up to date and most diverse. So how can you make sure that all this necessary data is in the database and it's being maintained?
Thomas, I think that's best for you, I think.
Yeah, we try to set up redundant data integration sometimes. So I like to integrate measurements from the equipment and the equipment provider directly. We can also add DSO or TSO data to it to have ideally multiple sources for the same data signal. That also allows to easily spot anomalies. So there's a redundancy aspect, but also the where you start at the scope. It's with some telcos, given that in some countries you have even manually metered connections or manual meter reading still. It is, of course, a bit naive to assume you can fully digitize that from the get-go. So also, telcos are huge organizations, typically thousands and thousands of meters. So we see that the approach that some are taking is to select a sort of testing scope or an innovation scope where they put some dedicated meters in or sites which are very digitized to show the path towards this mastery, to also build the business case to the question that Kaspars has said, and to clarify an ROI before considering like a big bang full-fledged rollout. Because you see that it's increasingly more difficult to justify like big capex kind of investments in efficiency because the return is getting harder and harder to make. I would always advise to start with a well metered, well digitized scope, and then try to transfer learnings to the rest of the scope. That being said, our platform is set up to, for instance, on a meter by meter specificity, we can add different granularities. So we could say, oh, meter one from Balaj, that's there you expect real-time data at least once every 10 seconds. And you can say that another one is updated once a month. And sort of in the data hierarchy, we can take that into account and we can work along that diversity. But of course, you are always limited in value delivery to the data that you can interface, and that is also a bit of a journey to navigate together. We try to set it up from a technical perspective in a way that maximally supports that journey.
Just
We have a
looking at
question
questions come through.
Maybe Libor, you want to take it live?
Could you share some infos about your business model, cooperation, how you work?
I can. Yeah, actually, I'm sitting in quite a lot of open space, so that's why I was writing per chat. It's basically if you share some insights how you work, what is like typical cooperation mode, something about fees, just very high level. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for your question. So as we said, it's a collaborative journey. So where we see most engagement start is around the transparency, particularly for telcos, as Thomas pointed out. It's lots of data points, it's lots of meter points. Our thing is transparency, so we try to be transparent about how we price that. So usually it's a annual license fee for the transparency work. And that'll be the start of that journey where we look to integrate steering. Then we look to move to a different pricing mechanism as well. That's based on the available capacity that can be steered. And it's not both together at that point when we're looking at steering assets. We're looking to give you an optimized price between both the steering and the transparency. And I think per the question earlier on, we're always live to the fact that we need to be delivering a return on the investment in us. So we work with several telcos already. We understand their businesses and look to sort of fit our costs within the returns that we think we can deliver.
Maybe one question to that understood. Do you provide kind of training at the beginning for users? I would say license is nice, but we have like dedicated energy management team, but they are not anymore in cow stage. I would say they are somewhere in the between. Yeah. How does it work typically? Maybe some use case you cannot probably name the clients, but how it works in reality.
Yeah. So every customer has a customer success manager, and there's usually bi-weekly meetings with that person as an ongoing sort of troubleshooting support. Obviously, there's we usually take, depending on the complexity, around a month to do the integration, so it's relatively quick. At which point, obviously, that's a collaborative journey where we're working with you to connect into your data specificities and extract that relevant data. And as part of that journey, obviously, I'm engaged in it as part of the commercial function, and I've got my peers in the customer success team as well working, and then both of us stay with you throughout the journey. So from my perspective, it would be checking in and being a port of call with you for are we delivering the value that you expected, that we talked about in the sales journey. And for the customer success manager, it's around how we continuing to both monitor and upgrade your performance on the platform over time and make sure that you're achieving that value on a regular cadence, as well as being a troubleshooter as well in instances where there's issues. And what that does is it gives you a primary point of contact. You've got myself as well, and then underneath both of us, we have a system of very sort of targeted engineers that we can pull up to help with an integration problem, a forecasting problem, user interface problem, and to address that. So the bottom line is it's not a drop and dash. We're keen to work with you because, as Thomas said, we really want to be steering your assets and giving you that resiliency. To get there, you're not going to take that journey if you don't feel like you're progressing and seeing value at each stage. So it's on us to stay with you and support you. And then there's necessary touch points, like the fact that we need your inputs to be able to forecast consumption, things like that.
Okay, thank you. That was helpful. Thanks.
My pleasure.
Are there any other questions that you want to take live?
I'll put my email in the chat now, in case people didn't get it during the demonstration. And please feel free to drop me a message with any questions that you have, and we can either hop on a call and I can answer questions. You can email me your questions. I'm like Claude, but not as good.
Yeah, Jack. No,
yeah. And it's got to be very, very narrow questions, specifically about this.
Feel free to reach out to Jack or to the ETIS central office, and we can then also forward your questions to the companion team. Additionally, you can reach out to us with any other energy-related topics that you want to see next being discussed within the community. Lastly, I've just pasted the link to the evaluation form for this session. Please feel free to share your thoughts and feedback for this session and the live demo. And if there is something that you want to discuss, feel free to also share it in the form so that we can acknowledge it and we can bring it as an agenda item in the upcoming meetings. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Jack, again for the lovely demo and for the great insights on how telecoms journey towards mastering the energy looks like right now, and maybe how it will look like in the future as well. Also, again, on 18th of March, we are discussing the energy white paper with Thomas on being energy resilient within the current geopolitical landscape. And also the other sessions that are there on the ETIS website. Feel free to already register and share your interest on those sessions as well.
Thank you, and thank you for having us. And we look forward to seeing you on the 18th and then again in Riga.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a great day.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.